Welcome, everyone, to this year's first edition of the Biweekly Update. Today, we're going to go to the weather first with Ken. No, I'm just joking. It's kind of winter here. It's 40 degrees. It's gray. Pretty common for Wisconsin, if you will. But welcome to 2023. It might seem like very much a copy of 2022, maybe not to begin with, but during the year. What I wanted to do is talk a little bit today about perspective, some different ideas, things going into what to expect for 2023. Obviously, Ken's Corner, Mike's Minute, and also Zach's Facts. Lisa today will be bringing us the happenings at Gentian for the new year as well to watch. So what I'd like to do is beginning in gratitude to start for a wonderful new start. It seems like New Year's are new starts. They're really just another day, but a lot of times we celebrate them. Some people set some things that they want to accomplish in the year. I tend to set intentions throughout the year. So I'm not a big New Year's. Everybody talks about, I'm really going to do this year. So, well, me too, but I don't want to necessarily. I think a lot of people set these goals and they set them up to fail. So I got to be careful with the New Year's resolutions. I like to do things that I'm intentional about. So with it, it's another year for new intentions for myself. How about you, Ken?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Happy New Year, everybody, on the webinar today. We appreciate you all. I would say, well, the weather today. I've been watching a little bit of Mark Baden on the weather. So it's supposed to be cloudy with a chance of meatballs today, Chris. So I don't know what that means exactly, but it's a new year. So my gratitude goes out for the teachers. With the 10-day break that we just had, teachers probably have the most difficult job, probably the most rewarding job too. But my gratitude goes out to the teachers that are out there. You do a great job. You're in front of our children in the most formative years, typically. So my gratitude goes out to the teachers that are out there today.
Awesome. Thank you very much. How about Zach?
Thank you, Chris. Very simply today, just coming out of the holiday season, just extremely grateful for the family that I have, just amazing parents, love them very much, and other loved ones as well. Just extremely blessed by all the people that God has essentially put into my life, especially over the last year. So can't wait for 2023.
Awesome. And how about Michael?
Thanks, Chris. Grateful for safe travels over the holidays. I mean, really with all the weather and craziness that we had, whenever you go across the country, there's a lot of things that can happen, and made it there and back again, all without any sort of issue. So appreciate that and everything that comes along with it.
Awesome. How about Lisa?
Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah, I think just reiterating everybody else's, I'm just grateful. This year I stayed in the US for Christmas, which is very unusual. So I'm just grateful for very good friends and a wonderful in-law family from Brad that make me feel at home and welcome just as much as my own family back in England. So just grateful for that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Lisa. So a couple of ideas here, and it's kind of interesting. I was thinking about this. I just talked about resolutions, but a New Year's resolution is something that goes in one year and out the other. Another good one, too, is my resolution actually this year, and I don't know if you know, I'm a big reader, but my resolution this year is to actually read more. So I turned on the subtitles on my television as well. So at any rate, as you go forward, a couple of good ones as you go forward. It's neat to see. We'd love to hear some of the intentions that you may have as well. I'm sure you set them, but really you probably want to know most what's going on with the market. It's interesting to look at because the markets, the economy, those are today's events. You're going to see a lot of news and titles on those, a lot of headlines. We'll talk more about those. You hear us talk about them all the time. There's some interesting things going on, though, in tax law. We had some tax law for the first time now. We talked about a couple of items that were half passed, not half, but half passed. And it was wholly passed now. So as you take a look at this, Secure Act 2.0 has some provisions in them that are actually going to affect many of you in some in good ways. So we'll take a look at what those are as well as we run through. Mr. Slott was immediately on those and sent those to us, as well as 4 or 5 other sources. So we've got our email out, and I think that's come back from compliance, Michael. Is that correct?
I believe so. We'll get that all taken care of.
I will get that all taken care of. That's good. Awesome. So running through, there's going to be some highlights of the Secure Act 2.0, if you will. Also, Zach has some ideas of what happened with the market last year, and he's going to tell us exactly what will happen with the market this year, which is nice. Thanks, Zach, for your predictions on a go-forward basis. And then Ken's going to tell us what's going to happen so we can do our planning early. So at any rate, as we go through, I'm actually talking a lot about predictions, and I think that's interesting. I think the burning question of the hour really seems to be, whether or not and what to extent the Fed is going to really be fighting its inflation with what kind of zeal, what it's going to do to the economy, will we hit recession or not at some point, and if it's not already done so. That's really what a lot of people are concerned about, a lot of what you've been hearing about, but also the escalation of the war in China. I said in Russia, actually, but also in China. There's some real concerns about those. There's a lot of things entering 2023, if you will, that are still concerns. I'm going to say it's still time for an endurance. It's still time to get through it. I think the ability right now for people to be stoic and make it through here, because our long-term plans are based with items like this in it. Very, very important to know. When we're doing our planning for all of you for 2023, it doesn't change dramatically. There are things like this that are unexpected that happen. Our plan is to expect the unexpected and to be still during it, not to do crazy things, not to be buying Bitcoin and all these kind of crazy things and meme stocks, as well as SPACs, things you may want to kind of put back in your history bin, back when I was like, it was B2B in the year 2000. B2B is the way to do it. You could say B2B, I've got a company, I got an idea, you can get $150 million, you can get $1 billion in funding. You know, what about SPACs? What about cryptocurrencies? They may become real, but they had this incredible spurt of joy. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is gonna be the best thing since, oh, maybe it won't. But that's what happens when people get to sit in front of their computers. Almost 3 years ago, as of March, they get to sit at home in front of their computers more than they ever have, watch this stuff, watch it all go up and believe they're brilliant, mistaking a bull market for their own brilliance. This is what happens. This is perspective we want to throw to you today. I want to bring to you some of that. There's a bunch of other things. You're going to get our intro to the 2023 client letter coming up as well soon. I might read an exit or two from that. It's some great pieces in there. Reminding you of the timeless, but giving you some of the timed things as well. So with that, what I'd like to do, I guess our theme for today, I'm going to give you an idea right now. It's one word. It's called next. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that once maybe Ken, Zach, and Mike have gone through theirs. Mike, how about why don't you give us what's going on with some of our portfolio managers?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And rather than focusing on what's next for me, it's kind of like looking at what happened in 2022. We got a lot of great information come out regarding how the markets performed in the different sectors, as everybody kind of knows that they're down. But let's start with year-to-date numbers. So currently, no, I'm just kidding. The S&P 500 is down maybe 0.5% right now, year-to-date. So we got the great reset, as we always do, on January 1st. But in 2022, looking backwards at some of the best performing sectors and some of the relevant changes that have happened over the course of the year. So in 2022, the S&P 500 closed down 18.11%. The Dow Jones was down 6.86%. The NASDAQ down 32.54%. The Russell 2000, which are those small cap stocks, down 20.44%. The Bloomberg US aggregate, which are all the bonds, down 13.01%, and international stocks were down about 14.45%. So as you can see, it was a down year for the stock market altogether, but within that, there were sectors that have outperformed and, as always, others that have underperformed. That's what brings that average. So the best performing sector in 2022 was energy. Energy stocks were up 65.7%. The worst performing sector was communication services, down 39.9%. Now, all of these sectors exist within these indexes, within the mutual funds that we recommend, and within all portfolios all the way around. So these are all things that bring that long-term average. And now when we look at style boxes, and when we talk about style boxes, that's kind of like the cap size of different mutual funds, the cap size of the companies themselves. So the best performing style box in 2022 was actually large cap value, which was down 7.5%. The worst performing style box, which this is very interesting, was large cap growth, down 29.1%. So all the mid caps and small caps, whether they were value or growth, kind of fell in between that. The discrepancy between the two best and worst performers, those large cap style boxes, was 21.6%. So there's those rebalancing opportunities that we talk about. There's the opportunity to sell high, buy low. Come on, Chris.
Come on, Michael.
But so that gives us our opportunity to sell high, buy low, give us the option to capitalize on a potential rebound in some of those other sectors going forward. Now, there's always something called momentum. So we only do this on an annual basis. So that allows these things that have done well to continue doing well for a lot of portfolios. I did just want to bring up a couple of the Q4 numbers. Best performing index in Q4 was actually international. International was up 17.34% in Q4. And overall, the S&P 500 was up 7.56%. So we already started to see a little bit of a rebound. We never know when these things are going to happen. So the best time to put money in the market is when you have it. Back to you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate that as well. I think some of the different items that we take a look at when it comes to markets is the variable unpredictability of them. I think what happened last year, and oftentimes people think, oh, we should have known that was going to happen. When you're armchair quarterbacking, it's true. You always think that you know what just happened. Oh, we should have known that with all the data coming up to it. But it's very easy to look back on it. I tend to look back and learn from things, but I've learned very closely that to predict what happens when a Fed becomes hawkish, to predict when they get so hawkish, to predict what happens with wars with people, it's impossible. So what we do is we have a consistent strategy that we go with. The markets are going to do what they may. And if you look at this, I think the permanent function of financial journalism is to take the worst possible aspect of what's going on right now and emphasize it. So when you're taking a look at the Wall Street Journal, you're taking a look at, remember, their goal is to what? I got to remind you this. Their goal is to sell papers, sell advertising, keep your attention. Every time you wait through a commercial to hear that next breaking story about whatever happened with the FTX cryptocurrency, the blah, 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 they're really just trying to hold you on, and they know how to do it. So be careful with that. They are playing with your agency. Your agency is your decision-making, your mind, and your thought process. So when I look at this, the financial journalism that is very beneficial in some forms, I don't want to paint it all as bad. It's got a lot of aspects to it that are preying on our addictive nature to watch the very next thing. I got to see what they said. I got to see, the weather forecast at the end of the newscast. So I got to listen to the rest of the stuff to get there. So just be careful with those. With that, why don't I pass it over to Zach? Zach, what's up with Zach's facts?
Thank you, Chris. Because my predictions were
Wait,
off
wait,
for
hold
last year, I handed market facts over to Mike. So
Well, no, that's too bad. I'm going to change that back. Sorry, that's not going to happen anymore. So it's going to be, I can't call it Zach's planning. It doesn't work. So still going to have to be Zach's facts, and we're going to switch it back to the market for you. So
sounds great. But because of the massive, not as big of a massive overhaul as the original Secure Act at the beginning of 2020, but the Secure Act 2.0 changes a lot of planning items. Ken and I are, out of about the 90 plus changes that came from it, we're pulling about 7 of those that we feel like are good to know for each of you or for your kids or grandkids potentially. But on December 23rd, Congress passed the Secure 2.0. It's a $1.65 trillion legislation to keep the government running. And the first 3 that I'm going to go to, there was an RMD, required minimum distribution change. Also, QCDs were expanded. There's a one-time thing in 2023 that we can utilize. And then Roth changes in general. The government's trying to get more revenue now, so they're expanding the use of Roth in different cases. So the first one really coming through the required minimum distribution age increase. Starting in 2023, the new required minimum distribution age is 73, and it'll actually increase to age 75 by 2033. So January 1st of 2033, it's age 75. If you're already taking required distributions, either under the original 70.5 laws or the 72 ones that came out a year ago, you have to continue your current required minimum distribution schedule. The second one, QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, where if you're over 70.5, you can give directly from your IRA to a qualified charity. There's a one-time availability to take 50,000 and actually fund a charitable gift annuity, a CRUD or a charitable remainder unit trust, or a charitable remainder annuity trust, but that goes towards the 100,000 limit for QCDs in a year. And then starting in 2024, QCDs will now be indexed for inflation. So if you're using qualified charitable distributions, a couple changes there. We can take a look for your individual scenario to see if the charitable remainder trust or those different ideas of using the 50,000 one-time exemption in 2023 makes sense for your scenario. The next one that we mentioned is just the Rothification, if you will. Roths have been becoming more available into workplace retirement plans, but they're changing a lot of the rules with them. If you had Roth dollars inside of a 401k and you're over 70 and a half or 72, or they're 73 now, you'd have to take required distributions from there, even though that those are tax-free. Starting in 2024, that's going away. Also, if you contribute to a simple or SEP IRA, if you're a business owner, that always used to have to be pre-tax. Now that can be Roth as well. And then a couple of the bigger changes is for catch-up contributions over 50 and over, starting in 2024. So we have a year to prepare for it. All employee contributions above and beyond the 22,500, the catch-up has to be Roth. So there are some major changes coming. We'll work with each of you that applies to do that with. And then also, just as a reminder, not part of the Secure Act 2.0, but if you're contributing to an IRA, it actually got bumped up from 6,000 to 6,500. With the catch-up, that's now 7,500 for 401k dollars. That's 22,500 for your employee contributions. And then the catch-up can go up to 30,000. So an additional 6,500 there as well. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Chris.
Fantastic, Zach. Hey, can you repeat that?
No problem. We'll start with the legislation passed on December 23rd.
It's crazy. So going through all the different numbers, there's again 90 different cases that have shown up, 90 different changes, if you will. Most won't affect you, but there's several that are profound that will. So thanks for bringing those up, Zach. And we'll speak with each one of you about how that actually will affect you. But we're going to send some information out as well to give you some of the highlights of the act, because the Secure Act 2.0 does have some fairly larger ramifications, also some 529 ideas that I think we'll cover in some of that as well, and some really cool outcomes for the future if somebody doesn't use all their 529 plan as well. So then here with that, Ken, why don't I pass it over to you to continue Secure Act 2.0, 2.0.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's 2.0 on top of 2.0. Absolutely. So, yeah, a couple additional changes that to piggyback onto what Zach is talking about, and Chris just mentioned it as well, is there's actually rollovers available from a 529 plan into the beneficiary's Roth IRA, which is a very interesting one. That's a new one that just came out. There's a few scenarios where there's extra amount or excess amounts in a 529 college plan. Some of the questions that we get from you are, well, what should we do with those? What happens with that now? And so now there's some new legislation that says, hey, we can maybe roll some of that stuff into the beneficiary's Roth IRA. Some stipulations on 15 years. The 529 plan has to be open for at least 15 years. Everything I'm talking about right now becomes effective in 2024. So 1 year from now. But we have our finger on the pulse on that piece. The limit is 35,000 that you can move out of a 529 plan into the max contribution limit of the beneficiary, which most likely will be that $6,500 number that Zach just mentioned as well. But we'll tackle that as we get there. That's effective for 2024. But a little piece out there for you guys to be thinking about if that's the scenario there. So the IRS is being nice here. They're gonna reduce the 50% penalty on missed RMDs. So they're being a little nicer. They're gonna reduce that to 25, and if it can be corrected in a timely manner, it can be either further reduced to 10% penalty. So they're being nice for once. They're playing nice. But our goal and our intent is not to have you not even have that penalty, of course, right? But just if it happens sometimes when we inherit a client from somewhere else and they haven't taken an RMD, but we certainly are on that piece, but we'll let you know if that's the case. So a couple pieces here. One of the sayings we have in our family is we can't adjust the wind, but we can adjust our sails. And that's a really good one with the markets that we're going through right now. We can't adjust what the markets are doing, but we can adjust what we do about it. And that's where all the planning comes in. Those for you that are in the accumulation phase, saving money for retirement, let's look at your plan. This is the time to make sure, are we on track? A lot of you are still on track despite the downturn that we're seeing right now. Some of you are right on the fine line of have a successful retirement or coming up a little short. So let's work on that together if that is your scenario. For retirees that are on the call today, be mindful of that 4% distribution rule if we can. That rule is simply saying, take a look at your bucket of assets that you've accumulated over your lifetime. Taking 4% of that number on an annual basis is what we can reasonably expect to spend out of our investments and not have to worry about running out of them based on a 25 to 35 year type of retirement. So keep that 4% distribution in mind. It's key right now when the markets are in a temporary downturn like they are now. So Right now is a good time for conversion planning. The challenge with some of that, with some of you, is that we have to get the RMD out first. So that's always a fine line we walk to say, okay, is it a good time to take the RMD out right now just to get to the conversion? It possibly can be. That's a case-by-case situation. We will certainly talk to you in your meeting or on a phone call for that to become that piece there. So really with that, just take advantage of the markets right now. I hear some people, I've been at a couple holiday parties. Oh, I put money into my 401k and next thing you know, I lose it. So I just stopped doing something. That's not how it works. You are actually buying more shares of great companies. If you're allocated towards great companies, you're buying more and more shares. Yes, your balance may temporarily be going down, but when things rebound back to whatever that level is, you're going to see your money start to multiply. That's how that works. So don't give up. Now is the time to face that uncomfortability that you may have. It's okay to feel uncomfortable right now. A lot of people feel uncomfortable. You're not alone on that, but it's not okay to do something that's going to hurt you long-term with your investments and your overall planning. And that's what we're here for, to make sure that we're making those great decisions every step of the way with you. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Chris.
Fantastic. Hey, Ken, can you repeat that?
So there's
I'm joking to get there. But hey, Ken, I know that I know your family speaks French. I'm joking. But did you know what most French people use on New Year's Day or actually what kind of toilets do French people use? They use New Year's bidet. Honestly, a good one. Didn't actually come out as well. I don't care. Anyway,
hey, Chris, it's actually funny. I think my family does speak French because sometimes I have no idea what people are talking about in my house.
That's pretty funny. So my daughter Samantha, she's fun. She enjoys the technology. She's been doing what is the little thing where Duolingo, where you learn Spanish on your device, whatever it is. Well, she's gotten so bored with learning Spanish, she's learning French. It's hilarious, by the way. It's funny. So I'm listening to her, these words. I go, Samantha, what are you doing? I decided to learn French instead. So she's 14. She's quite funny, but funny to listen to your daughter repeat French words when she really doesn't know what she's saying as we go through. So one quick thing before I pass it over to Lisa as well, I wanted to offer you guys some perspective. If we look at the situation we're right now, kind of the last time we had significant inflation, we had some major issues back in the early 70s, late 60s and early 70s, 1972. So I want to bring you back to that. So anybody who is 50 years and older, you might have been born about this time, okay? If you're 65 and older, you probably lived through this time, but you're probably young enough you didn't really pay as much attention to it, okay? The last time we had a pandemic of a flu was 100 years ago. Many of you aren't that old and didn't remember that, but to offer you this perspective, it's something I want to give you as well. Back in 1972, just before the firestorm crisis burst into flames, the S&P earned $6.17. The consensus estimates right now were $220. Let me give you perspective. So back then, all of the companies in the S&P combined together earned $6.17. Today, that's estimates for last year were $220. For 2024, some of the estimates are $250. Think about that difference. Now, what's interesting about that, in 1972, the index paid a cash dividend of $3.19. The consensus estimate is that for 2022, it paid $65. Once again, think about that. As we've observed, the index itself, which topped about 120 before the serial nightmare in 1973 to 74, went from 120 all the way down to 63. It recently traded around 4,000, around 3,600 today. You look at some of these numbers and it's pretty crazy to think of. So despite those prices, we have a plan that is there for long term, be it for 5 years, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. We have to look back at perspective like this because it gives us the ability to champion, to sit still and do nothing when we should during times like these. We don't want to do reactions. We don't want to go out and let's buy gold, let's buy silver, let's buy this, let's do this. We want to have the appropriate pieces of each one in our portfolio. So I just wanted to offer that to you as a little bit of a view of 1972, and right in the late 60s and 70s, there was Watergate. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happened. But I wanted to give you a little bit of that, saying from then to now, what it looks like. Perspective is often, it helps me look at these and stay true to what it is we need for planning. I just wanted to offer that to you as well. So in the bigger picture, as far as things you should be paying attention to, I want to pass it over to Lisa. Lisa, what do you have for us that we should pay attention to for the next few weeks?
All right. Yes, we've got lots going on in the new year. So it'll be great to see everybody coming up for the meetings that'll be going on for the first quarter. And also today we have our team will be focusing on their professional development in the new year and what's coming up. So we'll have limited office availability today from 10 a.m. till around 4. But we will take breaks, and any calls or emails we'll get back to you. So that's for today. And also today is Ryan's work anniversary. So I believe it's 2 years that Ryan has been here now. So that's congratulations, Ryan. And also we have a huge celebration. I mean, mega. It's like bigger than Christmas, but it's like Sunday we have our very own Mr. Doty's birthday on January the 8th. So everyone can reach out to him and wish him a happy birthday for Sunday. And also to celebrate that on January the 11th, which is Wednesday, is our birthday club for January. So please, anyone's birthday that is in January can come and celebrate with Chris for his birthday. And we can all enjoy that. So, and if you can't make it from December or February, then please come to the January one. That's great. So Monday, January the 16th, we are celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That's observed, so our markets will be closed and the offices will be closed. Also, January the 18th, which is 2 weeks from today, it's our next Gentian bi-weekly update. Same 9 o'clock, so via Zoom, so watch out and register for that. We also have on the following Wednesday, the 25th, the Health and Wealth webinar. That one will start at around 10 a.m. and same thing, we have the registration going out in any of our newsletters that go out weekly. And then Tuesday, the 31st, is our first 2023 Women's Ladies and Gentian, our women's webinar that we that the ladies here do. And also on that day, which will be a good day to have that, ladies and gentlemen, is our very own Julie Decent's birthday on the 31st. So we'll all be able to celebrate her birthday on the women's webinar. So please sign up for that. Anyone who is wanting to be involved, it's always fun to see the ladies on there. And as always, with me being the only lady on this right now, I have to do a dad's joke. So why did the accountant go crazy?
Why?
Because he started hearing invoices in his head. Boom. Back to you.
That's a great joke for a CPA.
I know, right? I thought it went well.
Nice. That's awesome. Fantastic. Well, a couple things to begin 2023 is, again, relooking at things, continued with patience. We really appreciate you offering us a phenomenal year last year in the side of introductions. We had fantastic introductions last year, and you'll see there's a growing of our team that will occur in the next. So stay tuned, really, to take into account those new introductions that you have. We're always looking forward to what we need to do to service you and to really work with you and guide you in a very, very good basis. So we're always looking at great team members, and we have one coming up in the next month. We'll talk about more in the month of February. But that's expansion is always on our mind too, as far as when it comes to service. You do the job of introducing people to us. We want to thank you tremendously for those introductions. It's really been a wonderful year for us and what became a tough year in the markets. So we appreciate that on a consistent basis. We still look to do what we do. We love what we do. We've got a renewed sense of purpose in how we do it. If you need any encouragement, call us. We love to look at hope and things that are coming to you as well. One thing I recently heard as well was the idea of next. I was in a master class with Mike Krzyzewski, the retired coach of Duke. And it was interesting to look at one big principle that they have is the principle of next in Duke basketball. And the principle of next is you take what occurred, even if it was a massive error, and typically this is when it's done. Something bad happens, something happens you didn't expect, and you take it, you don't live in it, but you learn from it. Because you will hear many people, relatives, friends, others, that guy down the street talk about all the bad stuff that happened to them in the past, and they live there. Now, who wants to have something bad happen to them? Not only have something bad happen, but then live in it in the past and bring it forward to the present every day by talking about it. So their idea is one word to prevent that from happening. Guess what it is? Next. It's the next thing. It's moving forward. It's the next year. It's the next day. whatever it takes for you, it's next. It was a wonderful word, very simple process, but to many of the Duke basketball players who've gone on to do great things in other arenas, it's one of the most profound things that they mentioned as well. So I wanted to share that with you, the word next. What can you do in your life? What can you do in helping somebody else's life? In moving to next, if you will. I know I've run a couple minutes over here, but that's okay because, I suppose it's my show. And I was a little bit, thank you for your patience on a little bit of the technology that started the beginning a little bit late. But I wanted to really let you guys know there's a couple things here. I think for this coming year, if you will, one thing I did is I wrote a poem, which is kind of funny here. I'd like to end this with the poem, if you will. Retirement, sweet retirement, the time has come for me to lay aside the troubles of my former life and be free from toil and worry, from the daily grind and rush, to spend my days in leisure in a peaceful, calm hush, to travel far and wide and see the world anew, to revel in the freedom that retirement brings to view, to learn and grow and flourish in a way I never could, when bound by the constraints of a job, a task, a good. Retirement, sweet retirement, a gift beyond all measure, a chance to be my own and find my true treasure. So let the world be turning as I take my ease and rest, for in my golden years, I am truly blessed. So I'm going to tell you next time what that was written by. It's chat.io, inspired by me. That was artificial intelligence. I did not write that. It was inspired by me and it was a request in chat.io. It created that in about 60 seconds. It created it in a voice that could have been me. Many of you heard them before, but I want to give you something. Technology is literally changing the way we do things. I want to make sure you understand that. It's in a good way. It's in a rough way. There's great things about technology and screen time. There's horrible things about technology and screen time. We need to make sure we're aware of both. Anyway, I thought I'd let you end on that poem, but then I'll reveal to you that it was written by artificial intelligence. So with that, I want to say here at Gentian, we're here to help you plan, live, and give in retirement. We really appreciate you. We are here for you. You're why we do this. Please reach out if you have any questions whatsoever, but let's look forward to a 2023. One thing I want to mention too is we don't make predictions. You know this, we don't do that. It's a bit frustrating. You say, hey, what do you think is going to happen with the market? We don't make predictions because we're here no matter what. We're going to be here for you. I don't want to get you hyped up. Oh, 23 might look great. I know last year in our client New Year's letter, we wrote a few things that were a bit predictive, if you will. This may happen. We think this might happen. Slap my hand. Who knows what's going to happen? It's true. We don't. So I don't even want to predict it. I don't want to go through it. We here shouldn't say this is probably going to happen. This will be the case. So we're going to be here for whatever it does. With that, I want to appreciate your extra time you spent with us today. I want to appreciate you. We look forward to 2023, come what may. And I'm going to say one word, next. With that, have a great 2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.